This video is sponsored by Green Man Gaming. Get games at affordable prices for various platforms. Click the link in the description below to check it out. Hello guys, this is Doran's Movies, and today I'll be giving you top 5 most horrific projects of Sylvanas, covering various experiments and storylines involving Sylvanas Windrunner. So, without further ado, let's get into the lore. Number 5. Subjugation of the Valkyr. As the Valkyr previously proved to be essentially the strongest weapon of Sylvanas since Wrath of the Lich King, she realized that there was a big opportunity on the Broken Isles. In Stormheim, she organizes a significant effort to subjugate Eir, the leader of the Valkyr, essentially our allies in the fight against the Legion. Sylvanas makes a deal with Helya that betrayed Odin, receiving a magical lantern called the Soul Cage. She also attacks a Vrykul city but fails, and then uses the players to access the vault, where she attempts to subjugate Eir. Sylvanas is almost successful in this, but as Gen attacks her, he smashes the lantern and frees the Valkyr. Eir escaped her grasp, but Sylvanas didn't completely give up on her pursuit. Even though a war chief of the Horde at the time, this was definitely in a way against the benefit of the Horde, and very much a selfish act for the interests of Sylvanas and the Forsaken. Number 4. Raising Undead. Since Sylvanas gathered the support of the Valkyr, she started a pretty significant campaign of raising the undead and bolstering their forces. While this is a good thing for the Forsaken, morally it is a completely different story. If she's raising her enemies as undead, how does that really make her any better than the Lich King and the Scourge that created the Forsaken in the first place that they so fervently rebelled against? Even Garrosh was not exactly on board with this, and he himself was a part of many atrocities. During the Siege of Orgrimmar, she is definitely on board with raising fallen soldiers, especially humans, as the Forsaken, even though they're technically their allies and are fighting a common cause. Sylvanas even attempted to resurrect her sister to join her, pretty much without her consent. So, it is safe to say that Sylvanas is definitely trigger happy when it comes to raising new undead, and as possibly the most passionate opposition to the Scourge, this does not make for a good image. Number 3. Creating the Plague. Development of the new plague started pretty much since the creation of the Forsaken. Their goal was to create an altered version of the Plague of Undead that would be able to annihilate the Scourge. The evolution of this weapon was quite a long process, and there were many setbacks. However, during the war against the Lich King in Northrend, it would finally come to good use. Unfortunately, Grand Apothecary Putrus would lead a coup against Sylvanas and would unleash this terrible plague upon the combined Horde and Alliance forces, as well as the Scourge. This would lead to the battle for Undercity, and the Horde subsequently banning any further use of it, as it proved incredibly destructive to say the least. However, in Garrosh's campaign in the Northern and Eastern Kingdoms, considerably weaker form was permitted. Still, they used much blight against Gilneas, and as it proved ineffective against the Vorgin, they used it to completely destroy Southshore. The plague is currently even further evolved and is used in the new war and the previous one against the Legion, with Sylvanas and Nathanos using a sample to tip their arrows. The new plague is extremely destructive, melting away skin and flesh right down to the bone. While it is not necessarily radioactive, it definitely has similar properties, making areas touched by it uninhabitable for a long period of time. Number 2. Southshore. As a part of the aggressive campaign during Cataclysm, the town of Southshore suffered a terrible fate. Southshore was of particular significance to the Alliance, as survivors arrived there when Stormwind was destroyed by the Orcs. It then turned into a seaport, which would subsequently be destroyed by the Horde again and later rebuilt. It was one of the rare towns that survived the destruction of Lordaeron and the Plague of Undeath. However, only a few years later, it would suffer possibly an even worse fate. Forsaken unleashed their Blight Plague upon the city, completely obliterating it. Some managed to escape, but many did not, as they had no defense against these powerful chemical weapons. After the terrible attack, the city was rendered uninhabitable and would become known as the ruins of Southshore. What was once an important city to the Alliance is now but an infected wasteland. And lastly, number 1. Experiments. Directed by Sylvanas, many atrocious experiments were committed for various purposes. Most Alliance members were captured and then subjected to horrific procedures. They would be disembodied, force-fed plague, and even raised as half undead. One of the most notable events is the creation of the sludge fields, which is essentially a concentration camp. Here, the Forsaken used captured humans that survived the onslaught as slaves. They forced them to work to grow mushrooms that would later be used as toxins. Many would also be utilized to create a new breed of loyal, zombie-like slaves. These experiments would be committed even on the Forsaken themselves, even though not exactly permitted by Sylvanas. Nevertheless, Sylvanas herself authorized many horrific experiments that included testing the plague and various other Forsaken outlets. If you have seen what the plague looks like, you would not want to be on the receiving end of that test. Alright, and that is all I have for this video. Do leave your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe, as it really helps out and keeps all the content going. Thanks a lot for taking the time out of the day to watch this video, and see you next time.